Hello, everyone. It is December 17th, and so it's time for another edition of Wednesday with Walton and Reis here in video form at thecardinalnation.com and in audio form as well at all your favorite podcast apps. And of course, I'm joined as always with my partner, Kyle Reis. Welcome, Kyle.
Hello, Brian. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. It's great we're going to be back on schedule. But then again, last week's news was exciting enough. It was worth waiting as new players came in and players left the organization. Haven't had as much excitement in that arena, although the awaited announcement of the signing of Dustin May has not yet occurred. And I'm a little nervous about whether there's an issue with medical, but that I don't have anything to back that up. And we're waiting for that announcement to be signed. And as far as I know, Kyle, also the money hasn't been announced either. So I'm kind of curious what the Cardinals are paying him. And maybe that's contingent on how his medicals go. Who knows?
I cannot wait to find out. I know on Sunday on KMOX Sports on a Sunday morning, Tom Ackerman asked Mr. Bloom about the signing and if he could elaborate on it. He said he could not comment at the time. And I thought for sure here we are on Tuesday night recording for Wednesday that we would have heard something by now. So yeah, I think that it's because of Trevor May's injury history, you have to have it in the back of your mind that maybe something is going on there. But it's also the time of year where guys are on vacation and are
Yeah,
out
who
at
knows? He
sea.
might be on a fishing boat in the middle of the Atlantic somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. So, but other than that, my general impressions of the signing, if the signing does go through, Brian, is that it's been received overwhelmingly positive by Cardinals fans, and I think I'm at this point where I would love to. I will spend a little time evaluating Trevor May.
Dustin May.
Why do I? Who's Trevor May? Trevor May
He's a
was
guy with the Twins, I think, or something.
Twins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What? Yeah. Well, they should sign him too, Brian. That's
Yeah.
my thought. I'm done. Dustin May, Jesus. Yeah. So, anyways, Dustin May. I think that I'm at this point now with the Cardinals and their signings and the things that they do. I'm more interested in how these things are viewed by the general public, or at least the public that I have association with, because I think that the Cardinals organization is in the position where they have to be mindful of that. And that's probably just as important as any success that Mr. May has on the field. So I think that my main takeaway is that people are overwhelmingly pleased that this signing has been reported. And it kind of fits in perfectly with the stage that the Cardinals are in their organization and in their winning window. And
Yeah,
it's a wild card.
this was a guy who was a big prospect, top 20 prospect in baseball at one point. Obviously, he's had a lot of injuries. That, according to my count, he's been on the injured list significant time in 5 of the last 5 years. So, as long as and he threw 100 innings last year, but you can't count on him for 180 and 30 starts. But they need guys that are major league proven to start games. And so, how can you go wrong with a guy unless they're paying him $20 million or something stupid like that, which they aren't.
Yeah, I know that some people were kicking it around that it might be like 1 year, 14 million. And sometimes you do have to pay, or more than that, 14, 16, 18, 20. And you do have to pay for that extremely talented arm. He still measures out impressively. He still has the prospect pedigree that comes with all of the arm injuries. And just like you said, Brian, and he's also had some really strong major league success when healthy. So
Absolutely.
the number is going to be really interesting. You don't know if it'll be an incentive laden contract. I would assume that there'll be incentives built into it when it is announced. And like you said, I just can't wait to see what that number is. I can't wait to see what the Cardinals are willing to spend on a wild card that they might flip at the deadline.
So, in my years ago days when I studied physics, there was something about every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. Who's going to get booted from the 40 man?
Maybe that's what they're waiting on, Brian. Maybe they can't
Yeah,
decide. Maybe
right.
they're
Yeah,
hoping that
yeah.
they can make a move before they have to make that decision.
Well, and there was speculation about that, right? If a trade happens and more guys depart that are 40-man types than come in, that's a way to free up a spot.
Oh
Well, let's
boy.
assume that doesn't happen.
Okay, assuming that doesn't happen,
Is it
I, you know,
Roycroft?
yeah, I think that Roycroft makes sense. But the thing is, that sinker of his is such an elite pitch that I would be surprised if the Cardinals, with this organization, with the mandate, with the retool, the rebuild, or whatever, if they get rid of a pitch that's that good.
All right, all right. How about Nick Riquet?
So that's the person where my mind went. Actually, I'll be honest with you, Brian. My mind automatically always goes to Jose Fermin. who does not deserve to be taken off of the 40 man in the current state that it's
But
in.
they're scared to play the guy at shortstop. He's the freaking only reserve shortstop they had. And they wouldn't play him there. I don't
Yeah,
know. There's something about Jose Fermin that they either like or don't like, or both, or they can't decide. I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. So that my thought always goes to Jose Fermin. Like even when the 40 man is not up to 40, I'm just like, release Jose Fermin, it's fine. But I do think Nick Raquette is the one. That just makes the most sense.
Yeah, and but to the Fermin point, you got so many middle infielders. St. Louis is clogged with them, and then you got Prieto that just got added, and Torres that just got added. Although Torres may be in the outfield mix, so it's also an area where obviously if Donovan gets traded, and that would change things. But right now, the middle infield is so clogged, even on the 40 man.
Yeah, they're kind of in a weird spot too with the middle infield, Brian, where they could. I mean, say theoretically they traded Donovan and Gorman. It's still clogged in a weird way, not with like elite talent, but there's still like backfill when JJ Weatherholt becomes a part of the
Yeah,
conversation.
Weatherholt's going to have to go on at the end of spring, and of course, a lot will happen by somebody will get hurt and they'll go on a 60-day IL or something at the end of spring. But yeah, Weatherholt's obviously in the queue, and he's going to go on, probably at the end of spring training unless he has a really bad spring.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. See, I unfairly say Jose Fermin. Fermin has a little bit of outfield versatility too, potentially. I think if they were to move one of the infielders, one of the position players off of the 40, Cesar Prieto does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, except they just put him back on. But it wouldn't be the first time that they did kind of a thank you thing to an organizational soldier. Although Prieto is better than the average guy who gets added to thank him for their time. But again, he's a guy where you say he's not really good enough at third base. He doesn't really have tons of power. They've got 8 second basemen already. What purpose does he serve?
And he's also really interesting because he kind of fits the MO of what the front office has been attached to in the past. And he's made significant gains in all of his not significant. He's made progressive gains in all of the areas that he was deficient in, whether it be patience at the plate, swing decisions, hitting the ball harder. It's all been incremental. It's been all been small and incremental. But he's done all the things that the organization, the new regime of the organization, has kind of championed over the years and scouted and been interested in investing in. So I don't know. I think Raquette is really the easy answer, Brian.
And Prieto, interestingly enough, he's a guy that, and folks probably know our top 50 prospect countdown is going on right now. Kyle and I did our list completely separately. No peeking. And Prieto is a guy that I put 25, and I guess maybe I just didn't drop him down and thought, well, he earned a spot in the 40 man, and he hit 300 in Memphis and blah, blah, blah. Kyle said, I'm not sold. He put him at 49, and that averaged out to 39, which is where he sits. But I mean, you're calling him a marginal top 50 prospect right now.
Yeah, Brian, I did that mostly because you made me put him on my list. That was
Yeah, Kyle. By the way, when you read Kyle's scouting reports, anytime we get to a major league guy, so I'm talking about like guys like Nathan Church and Granillo, who've already made their major league debut. Kyle's view of religion is they're not prospects anymore once they've had one call up to the major leagues. My take is I follow the rookie rules, and when they get to 50 at bats 130 at bats or 50 innings, then they're no longer. So in order to have two lists that joined up and made sense, I forced Kyle against his will to write about these guys. And every time he does, he whines about it. And then he writes like 500 words about the guys that he didn't want to write about. So you go figure.
Oh, it's true. Every word of it's true, Brian.
It's like, I got to be so careful not to say that I hate this guy that I'm going to be, I'm going
If I can blame somebody else for my hatred,
trying to finesse it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're having a lot of fun with the top 50, and hope you are too. And a little later, at the end, we'll talk about some of the guys that have been unveiled recently. But there are a couple of news items that I wanted to talk about. One that really got my attention, and I know it's close to your heart as well, and that's an arms race that was occurring kind of behind the scenes and wasn't really well understood and documented. But we kind of know about it from the days. How many years ago was it when the Cardinals were talking about having a pitching lab and a hitting lab and utilizing new technologies, and then the budgets, and then this and that, and Jupiter renovations, and all these excuses came up, and the Cardinals fell further and further behind the technology game in the minor leagues, and other organizations are, sometimes they're investing in technologies and gathering data that they didn't even know how to use yet. But I'm talking about high-speed cameras and motion capture technology and what minor league baseball is doing, Major League Baseball is going to do right now is they're talking about forcing all minor league teams to use the same technology, consistent technology across the games. When you read about that, heard about that, what were your thoughts?
I thought I did not think that they would do this. I was completely surprised by it, Brian. It caught me off guard. I didn't hear any rumblings about this, and with all this information, at the end of the article or towards the end, they said that this is something that the teams were informed of during the winter meetings, and we're a week past the winter meetings, and I still had not heard anything about this. So when I was reading the article,
And by
I
the way,
was
I'm sorry for interrupting. This is an article by Eno Saris of The Athletic. We don't get paid any commission for recommending any site, but in terms of good quality baseball news across the game, I think The Athletic is the best of breed.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. And I love that, Brian. I'm all about supporting the community, although they're basically the overlord umbrella of the thing. But we support the community. We support good journalism, and this was a particularly great piece. Both it's informative and every very well written. But so I'm anxious to see, and even the article itself, it didn't really get into, and it also hasn't been mandated yet by Major League Baseball what is going to be the standard, what is allowed, what isn't allowed.
I bet
So
you there's going to be some good lobbying there.
oh, can you imagine? I do wonder exactly how much lobbying in the actual traditional
Lobbying.
governmental sense is going to be. I wonder what Major League Baseball's Christmas tree is going to look like this year. There's probably going to be a lot of Kenetracks and Trackman, and there's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of presents from tech companies, I think, underneath the Major League Baseball Christmas tree this year. But
And some organizations that are leading edge and have spent a lot of money are going to be pissed off because some of their stuff isn't going to they're going to not going to be allowed to use it anymore. And then other organizations like maybe the Cardinals, who might have been behind, actually might get an opportunity to see the playing field leveled a little bit.
I know, and that's really it. The Cardinals and even some of the like the bottom feeder organizations. I do know that in the past there's been some like it's at least been said that there's some complaints by teams that do share revenue, that the teams that they're sharing the revenue with, that receive revenue sharing, do not put the money into anything. And
Pirates, excuse me.
yeah, exactly. Gesundheit. But and I'm wondering too if this is part of that. Now it does sound like Major League Baseball is going to be behind like the financing of it all. We'll see how that all goes. But this also feels kind of like not only are the big markets or the middle markets or the small markets like the Brewers that are putting a ton of money into minor league tech, it's going to hurt them. They're going to probably have to scale back what they have. It also sounds like it's going to put the teams at the bottom, the teams that aren't even trying to catch up in a position. And I do hope I hope it's not Major League Baseball. Uh, God, like giving a handout here. I do hope that they have to pony up and get up to standard. That should be part of this. If on the top end they're going to have to cut back, then the bottom end they're going to need to have to catch up. Brian, do you think?
Like you said, like you're implying, it's one thing to have the technology, the other thing is to actually use it and use it productively. And just having it and checking the boxes isn't going to help anybody.
Exactly. Now, Brian, you bring up all the construction at Jupiter and Roger Dean Stadium. In the back of my mind, I'm wondering what kind of impact this tech, I guess, rules and regulations is going to have on the construction in Jupiter. What do you think? Do you think that it'll have an impact or?
I don't know. I mean, like you said, they haven't even standardized yet. I'm sure the Cardinals had plans for integrating wherever they had. I mean, on the backfields, they had TrackMan integrated, and they, had a lot of portable equipment that they moved around. I'll be looking to see what's actually installed. But I have no idea yet. I'll be down there in a few weeks. Although, it's unclear, when the complex is actually going to be open and available. There's talk that it may not be till February.
Yeah. Brian, I was just thinking you're a couple weeks away and we're a month away from winter warm up. It's amazing how fast this thing is moving.
Oh, and speaking of winter warm up, come by the Cardinal Nation, take a look at the autograph signings. A lot of good signings this year. Prices are down, which is good if you're going to winter warm up anyway. The event's only 2 days instead of 3, which, as far as I'm concerned, that's probably a good thing because Monday was kind of an odd waste of time day anyway. But the interesting thing, at least right now, and of course, it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Right now, of the 40 players on the 40-man roster, only 20 of them are scheduled to be at winter warm up, and the other 20 are either marginal guys, new guys coming on. or they're guys that are in limbo being traded and they don't know in 4 weeks from now if they're going to be Cardinals or not, so they're not going to commit to come to the event.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, I cannot wait to see what this roster looks like in 4 weeks. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's not. I still think, to get off on a rant, Brian, I think you and I kind of nailed it. I think you were the one kind of at the spearhead of this as we started getting into the offseason. Arenado wouldn't go to winter warmup anyways, but he'll probably, I would imagine he'll still be on the roster come winter warmup time. That's going to be still a slow developing market. That'll be something that after chips fall, then we'll see Nolan move. But
Yeah,
the
it's sort
rest
of
are up
like
in the
the
air.
the musical chairs when you get down to the last two chairs and then one gets pulled out. That's what it's going to be. All the where's Bregman going to go and where's all that. So
Yeah, yeah, fascinating. It's going to be a fascinating couple of weeks, Brian.
yeah, yeah. Other rumors. I mean, who knows? I kind of vacillate on Alec Burleson. On one hand, I say he's a cornerstone guy, he's a Cardinal guy they should have built around forever. The other side says, hey, if they can really get a king's ransom for him, why not? Because they're gonna win 75 or whatever games with him or without it probably. Um, and then the other side of the coin is I think about, gee, is Heim Bloom crafty enough to get his name thrown out so that more than half the teams in baseball will call him and he can start talking with them about any players? Because part of the thing is getting the dialogue going. Say, oh, by the way, you called about Donovan, but I got a great deal on a Nolan Arenado. You want to
Uh-huh.
29.95?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're onto it, Brian. They seem motivated to deal and to discuss everything. When you talk about when you talk to people behind the scenes, it sounds like everything is on the table. So yeah, I do think that every one of these guys could potentially be moved in any particular deal. So I don't know what to think about what's going to come next, what's next, and what's
Yeah,
next.
maybe they don't either. It's all going to depend on what offers are out there, and it's not yet the time of year where people are probably going to get desperate,
Yeah,
unless you're the Mets, and then you're probably desperate.
Although, real fast, just as an anecdotal note, it sounds like the Mets are still being very calculating. They're not going crazy. I remember about a year ago with the Mets, the whole MO when they brought Stearns in was we know we have to build in the draft. And, they did some stupid things at the deadline, but now it sounds like they're like, all right, entering the next year, we don't know what's going to happen after 2026. So we're not going to act crazy on long-term deals or trade the farm for players. So it's interesting.
I mean, but I feel for Mets fans. I mean, you lose Diaz, right? You lose
Yeah.
Alonso, and they did a quick react signing of Polanco, which
Yeah.
probably isn't going to make anybody forget about Pete Alonso, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Absolutely.
All right, so enough about rumors. Another thing that's happened, now that the Rule 5 is passed, the next big event for restocking minor leagues is going to be the 2026 draft, which, as folks probably know, or if they don't know, is going to be during All-Star Weekend, but it's going to be earlier. It's going to be on the Saturday, Sunday, I believe it is. And the Cardinals, as we talked about last week, did not fare well this year in the lottery. They're going to pick 13th, which isn't the end of the world. And both Baseball America and MLB Pipeline came out with their views of a mock draft. And of course, this early, it's a pin the tail on the donkey kind of thing. But Pipeline named the Cardinals picking up an outfielder from Virginia named AJ Garcia, who came from Duke as a Duke transfer. And Baseball America likes the Cardinals picking a high school shortstop from California named Tyler Spangler, who's a Stanford recruit. What do you know anything about these guys?
Yeah, the only thing I know about Gracia is that it's a power contact who can play some center field, power tool driven who can play some center field. Tyler Spengler, I know a little bit more about because Tyler Spengler has been at the top of a lot of like class of 2026 lists. I want to say for a while he was a top five or a top three Baseball America 2026 draft prospect.
Hmm.
He's yeah the okay. So with him, he's a little oddly bulky. No, no, that's not right. That's not the right way to put it. He's like 6'3". He's a kid. He's a teenager. A lot of people are worried he's going to grow into his size a little too well. He's going to stick at third base probably. He's got a strong arm, but look, he's got from the left side. His swing is beautiful. It is a strong, powerful, direct through the zone, in the zone for a long time swing that can do a lot of damage. I am pro Tyler Spengler. I'm anxious to see how his 2026 prep season goes.
And
And
to
it's
your
some
point, he's the third high school player they have in the draft. So two other high schoolers went before Spangler in the BA's mock.
Yeah, normally this is the type of player that like will creep their way into a top 10. Like we've seen this before, whether be Eli Willits or but player. I mean, Willits went first overall, but that's another story altogether. But Tanner Griffin, he doesn't have the power prowess that Griffin had at the same time the year before being drafted. But like this is the type of guy that if he does slip to 13th overall, you're not like you'll be doing jumping jacks to get him. He's again, depending on how the next year goes, how he grows into his size, what he does at the plate. But right now, like that, you'd be enthusiastic about the opportunity to draft Tyler Spangler with the 13th overall pick, I believe.
All right, so we'll follow the draft and how it evolves. I'm sure if Randy Flores were here, he would say something about these third-party publications don't have any idea what we're thinking about or what we're looking at. And at this point in time, he's probably right. But it's still fun to look at these guys and think about who the Cardinals might be taking in the first round
Yeah.
this coming year. So, all right, and with the last little bit of time we have left, it's been a couple weeks since we've talked about our top 50 and the guy we spent a lot of time last time talking about the first baseman, Cross and Gurevich. And since then, we're down now to number 20. The one that posted this morning is Nathan Church, another one that Kyle had to write about that he didn't want to write about. And Church is a guy that because he's made the major leagues, granted, he wasn't, super successful yet, but he's a guy that I thought was a top 20 guy. You said he's barely a top 25 guy. Is that what are the limitations? I mean, we saw Church all of a sudden become a power guy, but your concerns are that it's really just aggressiveness.
Yeah, but I think that he's very crafty about how he goes about an at bat, and I think that will serve him well in the major leagues, as well as his skill can. I think a lot about what I've watched out of Nathan Church from year to year, and I think about specifically the beginning of the 2024 season. That April he was the best hitter in the organization in 2024 at Double A. He was just a monster. He was hitting home runs and doing everything. And then teams started feeding him a steady diet of breaking pitches, and then he became a middling prospect again with great defensive standards, who made a lot of really good swing decisions, but he couldn't do much with it. What I don't think it takes much. You don't have to watch many games in a row, a 5 game, 10 game, 15 game sample, and you see that Nathan Church is really good about getting aggressive early in counts, and then his contact tool, not his hit tool, his contact tool is so good that when he gets 2 strikes, he's just punching the ball. And whatever happens, happens. Sometimes he fouls it off until he gets a good pitch. Sometimes he'll ground the ball. And like what I said in the write up is he reminds me of Jason Hayward, and that Hayward was amazing that one year that Jason Hayward was with the Cardinals about putting the ball on the ground and finding a hole between the first base bag, and the second base bag. I don't know how he did it. It was amazing. Church does this. A lot of
He did in the
times.
minor leagues. In the major leagues, his BABIP was 237. So obviously he
Exactly.
wasn't doing it. Of course, his OPS was 500, but we're talking about a small sample.
That's it. And that's the difference is he won't just hit it down the first between the first base bag and the second base bag. He uses the entire infield. But even though he can turn on a baseball, especially breaking pitches in the middle of the plate and inside, he can turn on those pitches and actually hit them 440 feet at 107 miles per hour off the bat. He's capable of that.
107
That's
for a guy who's
exactly.
5'10. I mean, 5'10", 180, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, he's capable of that when he like in a hitter's count and he's looking for a breaking pitch. But if pitchers get ahead of him, then he gets slappy, and that's where he gets in trouble. And that's what we saw a lot at the major league level. So he's really going to need to toy with that. I don't know. I don't believe in the power, and I worry about his slappy hit tool and what it'll actually mean. But I do think, Brian, I do think it's important. And I was just talking with Cream about this. Like, I think it serves both him and Victor Scott II to go into camp competing for the center field job. That
you really think that's the case, though? Is
No,
Nathan?
not at all.
I mean, they're going to say that, but Victor Scott's a center fielder, and Nathan's going to be the fourth guy at best.
Yeah, you're probably right, and I think that you're right, and that's my thought too. But I hope that we're both wrong.
Okay, all right. So he's Michael Ciani Jr. Okay,
Yes, that's it.
all right. So interestingly enough, and by the way, this write up that I'm talking about Nathan Church is free for everybody to read. So you can read Kyle's excellent scouting report, and you can realize what you're missing if you don't subscribe.
And all my whining.
All his whining. Yeah, there was a little whining at the beginning, as I recall. But interesting, the 20s, for whatever reason, a bunch of outfielders landed in the 20s. And I'm just curious which ones you might want to talk about. Chase Davis, Zach Levenson, Travis Honeyman. They were kind of all in that 25 to 30 area.
Yeah, I think that look, I think Travis Honeyman, he's a developing prospect who's still getting caught up after all the time that he's missed from injury over the last couple of years. I think he's still trying to figure out what hitter he is. He's incredibly patient. He has a good contact tool, but I don't want to spend too much time on him because I don't. I think he's still so far away from like in the development stage. I think he's just in the getting his. I think he's still in the getting his feet underneath him phase. Chase Davis, Brian, I love Chase Davis. I love watching the kid play, and if he can
I've
find the
loved him for
happy
3 years, but I'm not loving him as much as I did.
that's and I'm telling you, like you again, you can pick any like 10 games swath throughout the year, and he's every prospect all at once at the plate. You see this incredible, powerful hit tool to the opposite field on the line, and you're like, man, he can do this with fastballs and breaking pitches. He can do it in pitchers counts and hitters counts. And then he can't do anything with the inside low pitch, and it eats him alive. And then he does, and he seems like he just doesn't know what he wants to do at the plate. He can't commit to what he wants to be,
Well,
and
he
that's
likes to
hurt him.
take walks. He's very selective.
That's it. It's again, then we'll get into that with the Daniel Ortiz a little bit too. But like, if you can have a good batter's eye and be passive and also have huge power potential, that's kind of what Chase Davis is. It's a weird hitting profile of a guy who I think is trying too hard to be everything all at once.
Well, Joshua Baez passed him up, and so we're gonna have to see if he gets a shot at Memphis, what he does with it. But a guy that I have to admit I didn't pay as much attention to his late season surge as you did, and that is Zach Levenson. And you're a believer that what we saw from Zach Levenson late in the season is sustainable.
I do think it's sustainable. I think it's kind of the same thing with Joshua Baez, and you don't want to ruin it, but like the
Ooh,
two
that's
guys.
that's that's a big comparison there, my friend.
Well, hold on. What I was going to say is it's about intent. Now, Baez went through a lot of different mechanical adjustments, and we'll get into that when we get to his write up. Levinson does not move a lot in the box. He never has. His mechanics have not changed. He's very quiet, very direct. Doesn't I mean it's a straight up and down stance, direct to the baseball. Has very few moving parts. But what Levinson and Baez both do now that they didn't do a year ago and did not do at the beginning of the 2025 season is swing as hard as they can, but in control. The intent to do damage. And to watch Zach Levinson, who is a pretty smart hitter, who has a pretty average, above average feel for the strike zone and has the ability to get to his barrel pretty frequently, started swinging harder in control of himself, which allowed him to hit the ball on a line and in the air a little bit more instead of hitting the ball on the ground at infielders. And it's changed what he is capable of doing and what he's capable of being at the plate. And I'm anxious to see with another year of this intent to do damage that he's clearly up there hacking with.
And he's,
What?
Zach Levinson is going to be in the right place, right? He's going to be back in Springfield almost certainly, and
Yeah.
that's a place where guys, typically break out. And again, he got a good start when he got called up from Peoria, and he's a guy that, frankly, I would like to have seen in the fall league instead of say Miguel Uguedo, but that's just me.
Yeah, yeah. I also think with Levinson too, it just yeah, he's got like that other little thing. Like he's really athletic. He's not a great fielder. He's got a pretty strong arm, but he'll put it all on the line. And it was so much fun in the second half of the season to see Joshua Baez and Zach Levinson just swinging as hard as they can, sometimes back to back in the spring. Like again, they're in control when they're swinging. So when I say they're swinging as hard as they don't look bad swinging, but just hacking back to back in a lot of Springfield games.
All right. Well, there's many more guys to talk about, but we're sort of near the end of our time, I think, this time around. So, we'll try to find time, depending on news, to continue to talk about some of these prospects as they're unveiled. As I said, we're now to number 20. So that we're, I guess, 3/5 of the way with our count, unveiling our countdown. And we're going to continue at the rate of one a day, into the new year. And then we'll have some fun articles at the end where we, look at prospects by level and by position and some guys who just missed the top 50 that we like. And it'll be fun to continue to read. So please come by the Cardinal Nation, new content every day, all year round. Any closing comments, Kyle?
No, sir, Brian. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to whenever we talk next. Hopefully, there's news involved. If not, it'll be next week.
Yeah, well, it'll be Christmas Eve, so maybe we'll bring some presents. Maybe the Cardinals will bring some presents for us. Who knows? I will tell you that one thing that is pretty consistent is that the teams are going to want to take off for the holidays. So there may be this rush of activity, right around the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and then there's going to be this dead period where people spend time with their families, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. We'll wish you the happy holidays next time. But until then, everybody get to work. Okay, we got work to do. We
Yeah,
gotta we gotta get through the weekend. We got work to do.
exactly, exactly. And don't forget to buy all those Christmas presents that you need to that you haven't bought yet.
Yeah, and you know what? Gift your family the Cardinal Nation.
Hey,
I
there
mean,
you
what a great
go.
thing.
Thank you, Kyle. Kyle, very good. 10% off for the holidays. I'll send you a gift card that you can, put in the stocking or put in the card. But 10% off on a gift subscription. And, if you're really not creative and you want to give yourself a gift, 10% off, that's cool too. There's a discount code you can enter. It's very simple. If you want to give for somebody else, obviously we're going to have a brief conversation so I know who it goes to and all that. But I'm happy to do it, and folks are already starting to take advantage of it. So please do that. Please give the Cardinal Nation as a gift. Thank you very much, Kyle. I'm going to give you a subscription for Christmas just for that.
Yes.
Actually, in all fairness, folks, Kyle wanted to pay. He asked if he could pay, and I told him no. Didn't seem the right thing to do. But I appreciate the sentiment, Kyle.
It's worth paying for, Brian. That's my my bottom line.
There you go. They endorsed me as Kyle Reis stamp of approval. All right, with that,
Yikes.
we'll call this fine episode to a halt and talk to you next time around. Bye bye, folks.